Let's go ahead and get started. So we're on agenda item H, Boards and Commission. Coming out of executive session, we approved H.1 for Planning, Zoning, and Texas Student Housing. H.2, appoint Planning and Zoning Commissioner, Chair and Vice Chair. The Mayor elects these. We have talked to Adam Coffey. Will continue his role as Chairman, and Terry Wilkinson is Vice Chairman. Do we need a motion on that, or is that just a...
That's your appointment, Mayor.
That's my appointment. That is done. Okay, let's go to letter I, consent agenda. Is there any, just for everybody, all these items listed below considered routine by the Town Council and our Board of Trustees and will be enacted with one motion. If there's any item council wishes to be removed from the consent agenda or individual consideration.
Yeah, Mayor, could we just pull I-8? I just want to make a very brief
No, that's perfect. Thank you, David. I'd like to get approval on, we'll pull I-8 out. Can I get approval on the rest of the consent agenda? A motion to approve?
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then agenda passes. Let's talk about I.8. Is that Carolyn?
I can begin the conversation while they're on their way up, Mayor. I-8, that food contract catering service is actually a contract where we receive a revenue from a food contractor. So our contractor that provides the meals, those meals are charged directly to the students and paid directly to the vendor. What this contract is for is it actually pays the school for the use of their kitchen during that time period. And I will hand that over to the people that really know what's going on.
So I did a little bit of a presentation here just to kind of touch the high points, and then you can feel free to ask any questions. So this is a 2-year contract from beginning August and goes through 2026. So as Wade had mentioned, all of the student accounts and faculty, because it also includes them as well, are managed by Viandas. And so they pay him directly. They work with him if there's any disputes. Everything works through them. Also, another thing I wanted you to be aware of is that Walter, the contractor, he maintains all of his state and local licensing as required by, the health department. Viandas is also the only sole user of the kitchen and equipment facilities, and that's required by the health department. Specific changes for the contract were in the student hot plate lunches, going up to $7, and then in 2026 it'll go up to $7, and that's per Walter. Information that I received from him. Likewise, the rental fee that Walter will provide to the academy for using the equipment and the kitchen will remain at $81.68 for fiscal year 25, but then will increase 3%. And that is direct local revenue that comes directly to the school. And that's all the information I have. So if you have any direct questions.
Yeah, so I think my only comment on this, and thanks for the recap, and Wade, I understand that this obviously does generate revenue to the town. I think, there have been suggestions made that the cost of food has been going up quite quickly. It's quite high. Just, out of curiosity, I went onto Carol's website, and it looks like lunches for students is anywhere from $240 to $270, and for staff it's $460. And please verify, because I don't want to pretend I'm an expert. Keller is very similar. It's $295 for a student, and it's $450 for an adult. And we're 2.5 to 3 times that price. And I think that's what people have been saying. And I look, just for example, like milk, we're being charged $1.25 per child, and I think in Carroll it's only 60 cents. And I know you've got a lot going on, and I didn't want to force this as something you should research before committing, but this is a 2-year contract. I know we have a 120-day release for no cause, which is helpful. But at just some point, I just think it may be worth kind of putting some time into seeing if and maybe there's a reason why this is better. It's worth the premium. I'm not suggesting it's not good. I'm just saying it's something we should at least think about But like I said, I know you have a lot going on, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We did discuss this a little bit last week. We looked into the contract, and given the 120-day release, we felt like maybe that would, if we renew, we still have time later to evaluate whether or not there would be a cause or reason to change.
I have to think, I mean, David, it's a good question, but I got to think there's some really huge economies of scale issues between those two schools for what they're serving and what we're servicing, which would hopefully help price, but let's look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's economy scale for sure, but I also think there's differences in quality. At the public schools, the food there is very different than what Vianda serves. And I know that kids can be very difficult customers. And, my son just graduated a year ago, but he ate a lot of Vianda's foods. And I know that during COVID and such, he had a lot of difficulty staying afloat. So I do appreciate him. I appreciate the idea of maybe getting bids and comparisons, but I do think that the pricing, as much as we want to pay attention to that, we should also pay attention and balance it with the quality of the food that he provides, and probably just take a look with that periodically.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what my point is. And the fact that this is a 2-year contract, I just don't want it to not come back, because it may just be 2 more years and then we're all busy again and we don't choose to look at it. So I just wanted to make sure we're just kind of thinking about it.
Since this contract does not end until July, do you want to maybe wait and I can get Walter in here and maybe he can answer your questions better?
Honestly, I think there's probably enough other things to worry about and to do that I'd go ahead and just do this. I've just asked that if there's a chance to evaluate at some point, it's just worth doing that.
Yeah, I think we can ask questions. I think those are good questions. Okay, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve I.8?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good conversation. Okay, item J, public hearing. Casey? Been waiting patiently.
Because y'all haven't heard from me enough the last couple of meetings.
I always love hearing from you.
All right. The first thing I do want to bring your attention to, on the dais, you'll have corrected copies of the Exhibit A, which is the supplementary budget information with the line details. We had some technical glitches on Friday when the agenda had to go out, and so what was attached was incorrect. Specifically, I want to point to lines 16 through 19, those state funds. What's in front of you is the corrected amounts that you have seen the last couple of meetings for those state contributions. The information that went out in the packet that's on page 223 and 321 has prior year information in those lines, which looks like we had a shortfall of $444,000, which is not the case. All right, and then going forward, I'll just very quickly run through the same information that we've been talking about and give you the update on what it is that we will be asking you to consider this evening. So for next fiscal year, we are looking at a budget of $11,510,063. Based on our conversation at the last meeting, the only changes to revenues are the town subsidy amount is going up. It had been a placeholder number at $1.25 million. After we incorporated the SLAs that were discussed, this becomes a plug number, and it's actually going up about $30,000 over the prior year to $1,496,000 and almost $500. But on the revenues, that is the only number that has changed from what's been presented previously. We got a request to show more of a walk-forward look at things. So breaking it down by those major categories, you can just see which ones went up and which ones went down. This is the same information that says previous year we adopted a budget of $11.1 million. We are currently considering a budget of $11.5 million for fiscal year 25. Whenever we look at the expenditures by object, The amounts here have all changed ever so slightly. That is due to those SLAs. So recall that we went ahead and folded in 1.75 FTEs for the Director of Innovation and Development, and then a split-funded building technician position. Additionally, within the contracted services, supplies and materials, and other operating costs, there were slight tweaks to those based on those SLAs, mostly the IB curriculum items that had been presented.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I think we covered everything on the SLAs last meeting except for the Director of Innovation Development. Is Dr. Ritchie, or can someone just maybe speak to that for a few minutes?
I'll let Dr. Ritchie.
Thanks.
Yes, we can speak to that. There were several things that came out during the interview process about coherency and cohesiveness across the different divisions at the school. There were some other concerns that we feel like could be addressed if we had a targeted approach to that. And it's more on the ground type stuff versus visionary type stuff, which would free my role up to kind of work with the town and on a more global level than on a more granular level. So that is something that we're still discussing, fleshing out. We had some ideas actually today that kind of came to light that may make this a little bit easier, but it's definitely something that we're still discussing.
Yeah. And David, I think I brought this up last meeting that there's this position coming up. I'm fully supportive. I want Dr. Ritchie to have every opportunity to come in and get what she needs to get done. The other thing I want to remind, just the way things work, we have 2 subdivisions coming in, and the way the funds flow, each one of those subdivisions pays into the school fund, and we look at those funds. We do have money coming in from these subdivisions, just the 2 that we've approved since I've been elected, so I feel good financially about where the school is.
I do want to mention on that note, those development fees that come into the town for Westlake Academy reside in a special revenue fund on the town budget for more capital items.
And David, you probably know that, but I want to make sure that's just really transparent going forward. As all this development is starting to happen, that we do have funds coming in specifically for the school.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know, as I said, I just want to make sure we kind of understood the position, and obviously it's, something you've been thinking through. So I'm not questioning the validity. It's just making sure that, as things come up, things you need, that you just let council know so they can be supportive and help you wherever they can. One of the things that, got dropped from the budget or maybe just deferred is, for example, a full-time special education position. Is that something you may revisit during the year? Is it just to give more time to assess the needs of?
So my understanding, and we may not be talking about the same position. My understanding is that position is in the works right now. The special ed coordinator position. Is that the one we're referring to?
So there was a special education position that was added in the current year budget, and then there was an addition asked for the next fiscal year budget. We paused the one for the next fiscal year right now, pending a review and enrollment information.
But the coordinator position, which was the stipend position for the current employee, that is, that's in place. Is that correct?
So we already have an employee that does have the special education coordinator stipend, and the stipend is on the compensation schedule that will be voted on tonight as well.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. Like I said, I'm not questioning.
No, I appreciate the questions. I just want to make sure you're.
I guess my point is this: if once you get settled and you do feel there is a need for, I don't know who put forward the request for this role. I assume some staff member said, "Hey, this would be something we think we could use." We just want you to know you can always bring this back, and if there is additional positions, don't ever feel like the budget is set in stone and it cannot be amended. I know I said this last time, and I'll just say it one more time. Last year, we did approve 6 paraprofessionals. I don't know if this was brought to your attention. Only 5 were actually placed. Okay. There is one that is in the budget but just never got fulfilled. I just wanted you to be aware of it. So
thank you. I think we're working on filling that. We've got some resumes in, and Carolyn's going to be sorting through those. And we have a request to move an algebra position that's a 0.5 to a 1.0, and so we're working on that too. There's still some things during that amendment process that we expect we'll go through.
Absolutely. Well said, David. And I couldn't agree more. That's exactly what we want you to do, is look at areas and just come back and let us know.
Thank
what
you.
we're
I
here
appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. This is just a different view of that same information that we just very quickly went over. We are saying prior year was a 1.1 budget that was adopted. Through those different categories, we're now asking for approval of 11.5 million for next year.
Okay.
And with that, I'll let y'all open the public hearing.
Any questions for Case before I open the public hearing? I'd like to open a public hearing to receive input regarding the Westlake Academy fiscal year 2024-25 school budget. Anyone wish to speak? I will close the public meeting. Okay. Let's move on to regular agenda items. The first one is K1, consider and act and approve resolution WA 24-18 adopting the proposed budget and fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, including committed and assigned fund balances. Casey.
Do we have any more questions on the $11.5 million?
This seems terribly inefficient, but
We can thank the Texas State Legislature.
I'm learning. I'm learning. Any questions on the budget? Can I get a motion to approve agenda item K1?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. K2, consider and act to approve WA Resolution 2419 and the Board of Trustees of Westlake Academy approving the amended operating budget for fiscal year June 30th, 2024. Casey.
And so this is the final budget amendment for the current fiscal year. Historically, what we have done is once we adopt a budget, we wait until we get into it for a few months. We start evaluating those different needs. Then we come back at the end of the year with what we consider a formal amendment where we are legally changing the budgetary lines that were adopted in line with TEA's requirements to be within 10% of the actual spend. So this is very administrative in nature, but not everybody has participated in this.
What happens if we're over 10%?
It affects our first rating. We get dinged.
So they hold us accountable to be good at budgeting.
Yes, because they don't want us to tie up resources if we don't need them.
Okay.
On the flip side, they also don't want us to blow past our resources that we don't have. And so what you'll see in your packet is the amended budget. If you've got your same little printout in front of you, it's going to be that yellow column in the middle.
And that's synonymous for actual for the most part.
It will be very close.
Okay.
We still have a couple of weeks to go and some cleanup, but
My
yes, sir.
vernacular, actually what happened. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Can I get a motion to approve K.2?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. K.3, consider approving Westlake WA Resolution 24-21 adopting the employee compensation plan for the 2024-2025 fiscal year and take appropriate action. Hi, Sandy.
Evening.
That's quick.
Yes. Mayor, Board, the salary schedule that was presented this evening remains unchanged from the 23-24 salary schedule that we have in place right now. So based on the presentation, the review, and the required public hearing, staff recommends the approval of the schedule along with this resolution.
Any questions? We're cruising tonight. Okay, can I get a motion to approve K.3?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Second?
Second.
Anna, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sandy. K.4, consider an act to adopt ordinance 999 appointing Alan Wayland as alternate judge for the town of Westlake Municipal Court. Who's here to talk about this, or is this?
I can speak to it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mayor. So our alternate judge moved away. He's retired and moved out of town. Our current judge has suggested this gentleman to replace him, and he's got an excellent record.
On the background.
Yes, sir.
Did I read that, Stan, he worked with you at one point? Interesting. Cool.
Oh, excellent. Good. Can I get a motion to pass agenda item K4?
I'll make a motion. Sorry, someone else can.
Can I get a second?
Second.
We're all tired. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, this one will be good discussion. K.5, discuss and act to approve a strategic plan, scope of services, and authorize the town manager execute required documentation, begin scheduling strategic planning sessions as necessary with a chosen vendor. Mr. Carroll.
Mayor and Council, thank you. This is a great discussion that just kind of builds upon what we talked about with the fire chief, right? The need for us to be able to look at our build out strategically to understand where we want the city or the town of Westlake to be within the next 3 to 5 years, on top of where we really would like to see this thing, a vision for this thing in 10 to 20 years, is ultimately important for us to be able to put together work plans on an annual basis that pushes us towards those visions and pushes it toward that strategic, making possible the strategic plan that the council would like to have in place. The plans that you saw in your packet are a little different in scope, but all include strategic planning for both the academy and the town. So I want to be very clear about that we can't, because we're tied so closely together, it really makes no sense for us to do a lot of strategic planning on the academy with no way to fund it through the town. And then the same aspect on the town, we could do this in a box and not count what the academy needs from us to be successful, and that's not going to be successful for either one of us either. So it's going to be of the utmost importance for us to be able to really understand where we sit today, hear from our constituents and our stakeholders, and then as a group work through a process to ensure that we make Westlake everything that it possibly can be, and understand really the fiscal responsibility that we have and the fiscal sustainability modeling that we're going to need to ensure that that whatever strategic steps we want to make, we can actually afford to make those things. So if you look at the 3 different scopes of services that we have, there is the one that I am suggesting. Although it is the most expensive, it also is the most robust. It includes strategic planning for both the town and the academy. It includes fiscal sustainability planning for the town and the academy. And it includes our first step in taking a bite at fixing our comp plan as well. So there's a development plan included in that as well. So obviously, you get a vision for what we want the town to be. You put a strategic plan in place to start it in that motion. If you can't afford it, it doesn't matter, right? You have to go back and readjust that plan. So this will help us understand what we can and can't afford, and then even take a next step through the development process and help us understand what types of businesses, how much value do we need to bring in both in ad valorem tax and in sales tax in order to make these things happen.
Wade, what do you expect to get out today? Do you want direction on this? Are we trying to approve it? I mean, I would like to have personally, I want to make sure I clearly understand if the council votes to spend $229,000, whatever, that we clearly understand what we're getting out of that and the time frame. When I read through it, I didn't see a time frame unless I missed it.
Yes, sir. So the time frame, obviously, to get through all of that is a lengthy process, right?
Yeah.
So I doubt seriously that we'll be able to complete this in a 3 to 6 month time frame, but we will be able to get through the strategic planning piece early.
Yeah.
And that's what I've talked to all 3 of these groups and said, of the utmost importance is us understanding our direction, and then we can start building work plans on that and understanding a 1 or 2 year budget for that. And then the fiscal responsibility is next, or that fiscal plan is next, with the comp plan being the final piece. It'll take about a year to complete the entire thing. Once you start looking at stakeholder feedback and those kind of aspects, take a couple of months to get all that information. And we're going to be able to help that process with the survey that we're going to be putting out as well, on top of them talking to, helping us rather talk to these people.
Any thoughts, comments, or
Yeah, globally, I think the prospect of doing something like this is quite exciting. I think it kind of marries together addressing some of these issues we've heard about tonight with some sort of sustainability plan. I think my only questions on this, Baker Tilly or whomever you go with, I know that's one you were recommending. I mean, these are fine firms. We've worked with them in the private sector. They're very impressive. But I also know that sometimes that until you sit down and work through the details, sometimes what you get is not always what you think you're going to get. And there's a lot of buzzwords that get used. And I think your mayor just making this point, it wasn't so clear certain aspects of this. It looks holistically great, but it's the detail that's really going to matter. And if we can get a granular input into the fire station, various school issues, I know once we get into it, there's going to be very specific things we'll want to see. You mentioned comp plan. I don't know if you meant like competitive salary analysis.
No, sir. It's,
Okay.
it's development.
Right. Okay. So, but things like this, where we're looking at the global sustainability, I think that's where it's going to be really important to make sure we're all on the same page together as to what this is. I guess my only question is, if we were, to the mayor's point, vote on this, are we committing ourselves to the total funding of the report? I noticed, for example, they had proposed a kickoff meeting where, there would be a discussion of what the true scope would be, what the expectations would be. Is there a way to have that first piece before fully committing?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
If that's the direction, if you guys feel like that's the direction we'd like to go, I'd like to invite Baker Tilly here at our next meeting to have a work session prior to the council meeting.
Yeah, and David, I've done work with them. I can't remember why, but over the years, and they're an outstanding firm. And I guess I just asked all of council. It's kind of like the fire station, to be quite honest. I think I'm not being critical, but we've just kicked a lot of this stuff down the road, right? On the school, on the town. How are we going to sustain? We've been living off permit fees, quite successfully, I might add. We know we have a development behind that we got to get sales tax coming in, and for Casey, everything we get built in, it's just dollars to me. Like, we know something's coming in, it's $300,000 a year sales tax. I'm keeping that tally. We talked about in our executive meeting, we have these subdivisions coming in that's going right to the school fund. I want us all to understand that, but what I don't want to do is sitting here a year from now and we don't have a document that we go, this is what we're going to be when we grow up. This is what the school's going to be when it grows up. This is what the town's going to be. This is how we're going to sustain ourselves financially. And this is what we want to look like. So you're right, it looks simple on the presentation, but we've both probably been burned by that at the end of the day. So however we do that, and whatever you guys think, because I think we all ran for this to get this strategic plan in place. It's well overdue. What are the best next steps?
And just to chime in on that, I really want to underscore the economic sustainability and the strategic plan economically is huge to me, because over the last several years, I feel like that's the one piece we have not nailed down. It doesn't have to be perfectly granular, but we have to have an infrastructure on what we think is going to happen forecasting-wise and how we're going to pay for everything. And then as things evolve year to year, we can kind of ladder up to that strategy and fill in the details or evolve if we need to. That's what we need, I think. And so when we go into this meeting with perhaps Baker Tilly, I think just having them have that same expectation we have is huge. Because if they were to go out and talk to all of our stakeholders and such, their priorities in their immediate minds may not be exactly the same as ours. And I think the number one thing we have to come away with is that economic strategy and plan, so that we know that we're in a good place to support not just the residents, but also our school in the next 10 to 20 years. Where our flexibility is, where our options are, where we can expand or contract later on if we need to. Those are the kind of compass and roadmap understanding I hope we'll come away with after this workshop. Everything else is gravy on top, in my opinion.
Well said. And what I'm hearing from council is that we want them here, right? So why don't we invite Baker Tilly here at our next meeting? We can talk through exactly what that scope of service will look like and what the deliverables will be. Exactly. And then we can possibly pull the trigger during that meeting and get things started.
And one other thing I was thinking about was the Baker Tilly. I mean, initially when I was looking at the bid, I thought, wow, that's huge. But they are both school in town for strategic planning and development planning. So that's understandable. They did reserve a full-day workshop for the town side and another full day for the school side. That may be reasonable, but I wanted to just throw it out there that maybe we could do a half day for the town and then a half day for the school, as we've all been discussing these issues for quite a while now. So if that's something that the council wants to consider, we might be able to bring that to Baker Tilly.
I'm wide open. Oh, Wade, one thing I'd ask, could they give us a copy? It might have to be redacted, but I'd love to see a product that they've done for a town and school. Sure. And it's just, I don't know what I don't know, right? I mean, I have in my mind what I want to see, but...
If they won't, I bet I can get one from a neighboring.
Okay, that's even better. But give us a baseline, right, of what...
100%. And they laid out references for us as well. I think they put 7 references down. Have we followed up? Can we just get some feedback from other towns that worked with them?
Yes.
Because if we learn from some of their theoretical mistakes, then we can...
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And the one thing I just want to say to council as well, and I think I've said this a couple of times, I do expect y'all to get out in the community as much as your schedule allows. Go to the chamber, the Metroport Chamber of Commerce, the mayor's meetings, all this stuff they have to go meet. I mean, I actually have a really good relationship with the Trophy Club mayor and the Roanoke mayor. I'm going to meet with the new South Lake mayor, but just all those relationships we can get to leverage information. I always feel like Westlake figured out they had to figure it out on their own, where there's a lot of people have done what we're trying to do. So what is the motion here, Wade? What do you want done here to just...
You've given me direction. That's all I need.
Okay, and you got that?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, thank you all very much. That's good. And I'm very excited about getting to this point. Agenda item K6, consider and act to approve a date and time. This is a fun part of our agenda. A date and time for town council governance training and TEA mandated training. Wade.
I'll actually
And
let
Diana everybody's getting out the calendars.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have narrowed the dates down even since this staff report was sent out. And so Saturday, July 13th, the only person I need to know if Councilmember Quint would be available on that date.
Okay, so is Saturday the preference?
The Saturday is the only date that everyone has committed to being there on that date.
No pressure.
I charge a premium, but I'll...
And so council would need to decide if you wanted to do that in the starting early or in the afternoon. I think we're thinking it's going to be 4 hours. Is that right, Wade?
Yes, that's correct.
8 to 12. How's that?
That's up to council. So,
Who wants morning or afternoon? I would go afternoon if possible.
I could care less.
I don't mind.
we will probably need a motion for the date and the time. And please vote.
I did compromise at 10 to 2. No, I'm kidding. What time?
I can do that if you want. 10 to 2?
Let's
do a
that was a joke,
compromise.
but okay.
No.
Okay. So,
It's fine.
can someone make a motion to have our governance training on July 13th from 10 to 2?
So moved?
Yeah, is that
So
good?
moved?
Good with everybody here, so.
Okay, yeah. So moved?
Get a second?
Sure. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Diana, thank you. Wade, recap council direction.
Yes, sir. So I have 3 pieces of direction. First was Dr. Ritchie will be looking into bidding out the food service at the academy over the next year and just ensuring that what we have is the best of quality and price. And then also for myself with strategic planning, we're going to try to get Baker and Tilly here at our next meeting to discuss scope and deliverables and report on the references that Baker Tilly has provided us.
Perfect. Thank you, Wade. Any future agenda items above and beyond what we have? And I think, Wade, you sent out
Yes, sir.
an email to everybody.
At your desk, again, we had a little software glitch. It ate a staff report. It also ate it ate the future agenda report. So what you have at your dais is the most recent future report on all the items that I'm working on currently for a future agenda. If you have any question on any of those items, then please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, any other questions, any issues? You guys, sorry this went a little longer than I thought, but I appreciate it all. Meeting's adjourned at 7:03. Thank you, everybody. Next meeting is July 15th at 4 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all. You